guys, how you guys doing? I hope you guys are all doing absolutely amazing. What it do, what's up, what's good, what's popping? I am Nkhensani. If it is your first time here, I create lifestyle and faith content here on YouTube, and I'm so excited and happy that you guys are all here today. So today's video, I'm going to be sharing, like promised, my single resource guide. The ultimate singles resource guide. There we go. I'm going to be sharing all the things that I have found very important to listen to, very teachable, very ones that just spoke about singleness, relationships, dating, etc., all those things. This isn't going to be a long video. I am going to kind of speed through everything because I don't want this video to be too long because
I talk a lot.
So before we get right into this video, please don't forget to give this video a big massive thumbs up if you liked it. Comment down below anything that you've listened to, watched, or people that inspire you in your singleness, and also that inspire you in godly and biblical dating, and if I can put it that way. And please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you haven't subscribed, please do consider subscribing. We would love to have you, and let's get right into the video. This video is set up into YouTube videos, books, and then podcasts, 3 different categories, and I'm just gonna share all these things, and you guys should definitely look at them. If I'm mentioning a YouTube video,
binge watch everything.
I highly recommend binge. Podcast also,
binge everything. Binge.
It's the only time I'm encouraging you to binge, because it's very teachable, honest, open conversation that I think will be very helpful for you guys. So let's get right into this. So YouTube videos, right? I'm just gonna mention some good ones. So the first one that I wanted to mention was my videos. So I have videos on singleness. If you guys checked out my single and waiting video that I did this year, definitely make sure you check that out. How to be content and how to wait while in relationships. I have a video that I did with my cousin last year where we did a Q&A answering questions about purity, lust, temptations, how to be content, how to not be lonely, how not to compare, and all of that good stuff. And then we did a video about 10 things that singleness has taught us, and then another video that we did the year before then was talking about intentional singleness and how to be intentional within your singleness. And it was such a good, I always go back and watch those videos because they're so helpful for me. So I'd highly recommend those videos. So next up we have Misha Sang. So Misha is one of my really good and close friends, and she did a video with her now fiance, soon eventually to be husband, and they were, I think it was like 5 years ago, man. They were such babies, but the wisdom and truth that they had about dating and just respecting and honoring God within that is something so helpful. They don't post on there anymore, but I feel like there's so much wisdom and gems in those videos, so definitely recommend them. Next up we have Boipelo and Sipo, and they just do such nice videos about relationships. I think they did videos about singleness. They just unpack things like trauma and how that adds into relationship, and I just love how they're such a cute Christian couple. Next up we have Chad and Tori Maestas. They have a YouTube channel where they basically just talk about a whole bunch of things like boundaries, singleness, dating, red flags, things to look for in a spouse, sex, all those things. They just talk about a whole bunch of things on their channel, and like they literally don't leave anything underneath the rugs. They literally share everything. Next up, these are YouTube videos, but these are more so series about relationships, dating, all of that stuff. So I'm gonna rapid fire this. So first up we have Relationship Goals by Apostle Mike Todd. The first one that he did years back, and then the reloaded one, I would say listen to both of them. They're really good. Next up, as one I spoke about in my last video, it's called Expectations, and this was by Charles and Abby McCoff. And they just spoke about the notion of, if you don't have it right now, you don't need it, and God sees that you don't need it, so why are you worrying and stressing over something? And then next up we have is Ben Stewart. Ben Stewart has a book. It is called Single, Dating, Engaged, Married. I've listened to him speak about his book and just all that entails it, but then he also has a YouTube sermon series about everything that he basically spoke about in the book. Next up we have the Loveology series. This is by John Makoma, and again this is a book. I actually do have it on my bookshelf right there. This is another sermon series where he basically unpacks everything that he taught in the book, everything that entails to love, sex, marriage, and how that looks like in such a biblical manner. Next up we have Love, Sex, and Dating. This is by Andy Stanley. This is another one that is also a book, but you also can listen to the sermon series. Next one is The Modern Romance. This is by Life Life Church, another sermon series. And then we have Vous Church's thing. It's called Asking for a Friend. So it's really, really interesting. There's so many nuggets in all these things that you can definitely take. Next up, we have The Porch. I think The Porch is the one I will highly recommend because The Porch is amazing. The series that I was talking about in the last video was called The Dateables. Spoke about, are you dateable? Is he dateable? Is she dateable? Single but dateable, The Dateables, and then Marriageable. Truly enjoyed it. And then in that, they have a few other series within there about dating, romance, relationships, all that shebang. But even in that, they have so many other sermon series about a whole bunch of Christian topics that we as young people struggle with and deal with, and I would highly recommend you listen to that. So next up, we have podcasts. Now again, I'm not doing specific episodes because like I said in the beginning, binge, like literally listen to everything. The first podcast that we have is called The Heart of Dating Podcast. This is by Kate Warren, and she's a dating coach, and she just goes, it's so good. Next up, we have Views from The Porch. Like I said, I mentioned The Porch. This is The Porch's podcast. The Porch don't just talk about relationships and dating because that's just one small aspect of what your Christian life entails, but they speak about so many other things, and I just love listening to them because they do it in such a way where they speak about relationships and dating and all of that in such a way where it's like, I want to honor God first, and then I want to honor the person that I'm with, and I want to do so in such a way that is pleasing to God and gives him glory at the end of the day. So I think this is why I really enjoy them. So next up, we have the Godly Dating Podcast, and recently he came up with a podcast where I think the title was Everyone Wants a Godly Spouse Until They Need to Be Godly, because I think a lot of times we all pray for, God, I want a Boaz, I want a godly man, but it's like, are you godly though? Are you taking the steps of also being godly and pursuing God well? Because you can't expect some guy to pursue God, then you're not gonna come in and be godly as well in the midst of it. So that was really good. Next up, we have the Dream Check Podcast. This isn't just a podcast about relationships, but there are a few podcasts. I think there was one that had Tiffany Hogel, one that had Tori Maestas, one that had I forgot the other person's name. Then they had this one, she had this recent one where it had a relationship coach on it, and it just spoke about so many things, so many good things, so many good gems. And then we have For the Girl, this is by Kenzie and Mac. They speak about a whole bunch of things. For the girl who's depressed, for the girl who doesn't want to read her Bible, for the girl who's procrastinating, for the girl who has no passion, for the girl who wants a relationship, for the girl who wants to get married, all these things. They talk about all these things for the girl who. Next up, we have the Whoa That's Good podcast. This is by Sadie Robertson. Sadie has a few episodes where she speaks about dating, relationships, singleness, all of that stuff, and there's such good gems to take from those episodes as well. And she's the one where I was listening to, she had Ben Stewart, and he was talking about single, dating, engaged, married, and I was like, I want this book like as in today. So that was where I heard about that book. And then a few others that we have is Have You Heard by Emma May and Truth Talks by Tara. These two, they don't just speak, they talk about they do Bible studies, they talk about quiet time, spending time with God, your relationship with God, your faith, all of that stuff. And then there's a few small little episodes in there where they talk about dating, relationships, singleness, and all of that good stuff. And I'd highly recommend you listen to those because there's such good nuggets in there. And also the Living Easy podcast by Lindsey Maestas. Her story is just incredible, and how she just talks about the notion. What I learned from her the most is you'd rather wait and and maybe get married and be in a good healthy relationship when you're like 47 than marry when you're 24 and be in a toxic one. There's such a beauty in waiting, and her story just kind of shows and exemplifies that. Now we're going to talk about books just to end off. Now, books, I haven't read any of these books, but I want to. These books, I've heard such good things about them, or I've listened to the authors speak about the books in YouTube videos or podcasts and things like that. So I kind of have an idea of what these books are all about, and this is why I feel so I can share them, because I've listened to the authors speak about the book, and incredible. First book, we have Relationship Goals, like I mentioned, by Mike Todd. Highly recommend. Next up, we have Loveology. I've spoken about this one. Highly recommend that one as well. Then we have Single, Dating, Engaged, Married. I've already spoken about that one. Love, Sex, and Dating. This by Andy Stanley. Again, I've already spoken about these ones. These ones are sermon series, so if you want to listen to them speak about it in a sermon form, you can definitely do that. But if you want to get the book, then you can also do that. The next book we have is Outdated. This is by JP Pokluda. I don't know, in my opinion, I just love them because they honor God first and foremost. They don't they're not based on selfish ambition that we tend to fixate on when we seek out relationship, but it's everything to do with honoring God first and foremost, and I think that's what we should all be pursuing after. And then we have A Love That Lost. This is by Jefferson and Alyssa Bethke. Now Jefferson Beth, I have a book by him. It's called To Hell With the Hustle, if I'm not mistaken. And then he was the one who preached the sermon from the porch about the marriageable, and he spoke about how marriage is a mission and how we all, both people, are called to go on mission together. It's not about just, oh, we're married, it's cute, it's rainbows and such. No, it's about building God's kingdom together. That's the mission of you two coming together. And I remember also Jackie Hill Perry said something when she was, I think it's 30 Minutes with the Perrys, and I think Preston and Jackie were talking about their love story, and at the end they're basically sharing the part that if you are getting out of singleness and going into dating, it must be to build God's kingdom better, because you can't do it all that much by yourself. Like, it must be to honor God even more, because that's what it should be, right? Last two ones we have is The Meaning of Marriage by Timothy and Kathy Keller. I want this book so badly. I keep seeing quotes of it on my Pinterest, and I'm just like, okay, that's weird, but like also I keep reading them like, wow. So as the book entails, it's called The Meaning of Marriage, but it's about the meaning of marriage. Then lastly we have The Sacred Search by Gary Thomas, and he's the same person that wrote the Love Languages book, and then he also has one called The Sacred Marriage also. This is the video I kind of didn't want to really explain. I've listened to most of these things, and I just wanted to just create a resource guide so you guys can come to this video and listen to the things that I'm saying. Also check out the description. I will be leaving links. And yeah, this is the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to give this video a big massive thumbs up, comment down below, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye friends.
I'm not the kind that takes away when it's over, and it's all for me. I'm fine pretending that you'll keep above water. Maybe you'll carry me.